So the other day, I wasn't here, but Venerable Lamsel gave a talk for BBC on love and how love differs in the Buddhist context than in the average relationship that we have with our family and friends. And this is a topic that I've been thinking a lot about since I came to the Abbey, and I thought about giving a BBC about it, but I really didn't. I didn't feel I had it quite figured out yet. But I thought her talk was very helpful in fleshing out some of the key difficulties or sticky points that come up as we decide to head out down a more renounced monastic lifestyle. So, I've spent a lot of time trying to reconfigure love and what that means, and how to be less self-centered in the ways that I relate to other people. And when you ordain, some people have the idea that you have to cut off all ties with family and friends. And both of my parents said, "Oh, can we still talk to you?" So there's still this conception out there, and the answer is yes. You still continue to be a part of their lives, and this is actually more difficult because you maintain that connection, but you have to learn how to relate to them in different ways. And chances are that we've become very used to relying on our family and friends for emotional and maybe even material support throughout our lives. And in turn, we're used to having them rely on us. And this can give us a sense of meaning and purpose. So, while there's nothing wrong with being connected to other people or enjoying helping them and supporting them, we're setting ourselves up for a lot of suffering if we start to rely on only a small group of people to bring us happiness and meaning in our lives. So after moving to the Abbey and reducing my contact significantly with family and friends, I found out just how reliant I had been on them for a sense of well-being and a sense of self-esteem and self-worth. And I quickly realized that I had to grow a lot internally to develop new ways to meet these needs. I also reflected a lot about how attachment and love are different from each other and how the two interact with each other. And we often have a mixture of love and attachment with the people we find ourselves closest to, or to the people we cherish the most. So it's tempting to conclude that these two mental factors are, if not complementary, they're at least compatible. But if we really pay attention to how Buddhism defines attachment and love, we'll see that attachment actually interferes with our ability to develop and to express genuine love. So if we truly love those who we claim to, our family and friends, we'll want to make efforts to reduce our attachment to them. Love mixed with attachment typically involves some degree of bias or partiality. There is some degree of self-centeredness and lots of unrealistic expectations. And this is something that Venerable Lamsel touched on. These factors are most pronounced in romantic relationships, where we agree to love only one person out of the 8+ billion on this planet, and then we expect them to meet all of our emotional and sometimes material needs. But on the other hand, spiritual love, or pure love, is less conditional, it's focused more on others, and it's based on wisdom and compassion. And this means that we try to have an equal degree of love for all beings, regardless of superficial characteristics or the way that they treat us, and focus more on meeting their needs rather than our own. So in thinking about the ways that attachment interferes with love, I think the main way is the unrealistic expectations that it leads us to have about the other person's ability to provide us with satisfaction and happiness. When the person inevitably is unable to meet these expectations, we can't help but get angry or disappointed, and then we're likely to react in a way that might cause them harm. And as we do this, of course, we're directly going against our wish to bring them well-being and happiness. Whereas in contrast, if we aren't relying on certain people to bring us happiness or to meet all of our emotional needs. We don't get as angry or distraught when they die or leave or mistreat us. Attachment can also confuse us about the ways that we can actually benefit others. For example, if we think that showering gifts and money on other people is the same thing as love. In Buddhism, love is defined as the wish for others to have happiness and its causes. And so if we really wish others to be happy, we have to figure out just what does happiness mean. And this is a meditation in the Lamrim, and it's very interesting. There's many different layers and levels and types of happiness, so I really encourage people to do that. But I recently read an article by Venerable Chodron in the Buddha Dharma quarterly magazine, and she talked a lot about happiness and how for ordinary beings, joy comes from being free of craving and attachment. That's really the main root of happiness. And she said this kind of joy may not be the giddy excitement commonly known as happiness, but it's a mental clarity and peace that's much deeper. And reducing our attachment also leads to a greater sense of fulfillment and self-satisfaction, because we're no longer chasing things outside of ourselves for gratification. And in my personal experience, a mind filled with contentment and gratitude is about the happiest mind that I've had. So I'm pretty convinced that reducing craving is the key to bringing about that kind of happiness that we all instinctively seek. So if happiness is learning how to cultivate beneficial states of mind, such as contentment or wisdom, instead of acquiring possessions or relationships or status outside of ourselves, then we have to examine how much are we helping those we love to do this in their lives. It might be uncomfortable, but I think we should ask ourselves, how much do we distract our family and friends from developing themselves spiritually or emotionally, or discourage them from doing activities that focus on serving the needs of others because we want them to pay more attention to us and focus on our needs? We should consider, will encouraging our loved ones to depend on us for their happiness, self-esteem, and sensory gratification help them in the long run? Or will it further their delusion that worldly pleasures and external objects can bring lasting satisfaction? What will be the result of any dependency that we encourage them to develop on our affection and our attention if we happen to die or get sick? And hopefully by reflecting on these questions, we'll see the benefits of reducing attachment in relationships for ourselves and for others. And we'll want to know how to go about doing this. So I'm still very much exploring this question, but I've come up with a few ideas. And the most important of which is watching my motivation for however I'm interacting with another person. I ask, am I viewing this other person mainly as a potential source of happiness or pleasure? Or am I relating to them as a living being with feelings and needs of their own? Am I using their company to distract myself or to find some kind of excitement? Or am I engaging in activities that would have long-lasting benefits for myself and for others? I found that it's really crucial to have a variety of inner and outer resources to turn to if any one person is unable to meet my needs, which is usually the case. And we have to have or to be involved in activities that give our lives a sense of meaning and purpose so that we aren't relying on people to provide this for us. And likewise, we'll encourage other people that we care about to also engage in activities that lead to inner joy and contentment that will help them from developing attachment in themselves, which only will lead to some kind of harm down the line. So the conclusion is not that we can't have loving relationships without attachment, or that we can't genuinely love other people. I think this is quite possible. But we have to be very careful about our motivations for the kinds of relationships we get involved with and the expectations we develop of the other people. It's really amazing to me how His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, calls everyone his friend. And it's very clear to me that his idea of friend is much different than the idea of friend that I've had for most of my life. So usually my friends have had to be people that I like their personality, I agree with their opinions, they agree with mine, they're kind to me, they're there for me when I need them to be. But this isn't what His Holiness meant. His idea of friendship is based on the understanding that all living beings can relate to each other on very deep levels because we all want the same thing, which is to be free from suffering and to have happiness. So in summary, I think attachment undermines love by introducing unrealistic expectations that the other person can provide us with constant and everlasting happiness. This leads to disappointment, anger, and us potentially turning them into an enemy. Spiritual love, on the other hand, is not so self-referencing, and our heart can remain open to other people regardless of whether the relationship gets broken or they do something that hurts us. So may all of us continue to work on reducing attachment in the relations that we have in order to develop love, so that we can progress further and further towards our goal of being of most benefit to all beings.